Coming up in this half hour, Prince Madoc and King Arthur and Merlin. Did they once visit Kentuckiana back around the 7th century? We'll find out. Also in this half, talk about the first Europeans to come to America. And we're not talking about Columbus 500 years ago. No, it's possible that Europeans were here in Kentuckiana in about the year 574. I'd like to introduce you to two gentlemen who are holding to that theory. First of all, Jim Michael of the Ancient Kentucky Historical Society, and Alan Wilson of the Arthurian Foundation. Thank you both very much for coming in. Now, who wants to tell the story about these ancient explorers? Jim, you want to start off?
Well, I'll start out. Basically, you've got it right. 900 years before Columbus, it appears that there was a vast migration, maybe 70,000. We've got 500 boats, 700 boats sailing. 10 manuscripts that he'll talk about that haven't nailed down. They came, we've got the archaeological evidence with it.
What is the archaeological evidence?
Okay, that's slide number 2.
Oh, okay. let's go through it.
First of all, we've got...
what do we have here? Slide number 1?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. That's a... that's fine. That's good.
Okay.
That is a chunky stone, they call it. It's in the museum at Lexington. It was found by... archaeologist, head of the archaeology department at UK, but you notice at the bottom of it, there's kind of a broad arrow on it. Next slide. I sent this over to Alan Wilson, and he sent me back, there may have been 50 of them found at Troy.
What did you make of it, Alan?
Well, it's a relic found at Troy, where the Welsh originally claim origin. It has on it an Arwen sign. The Arwen sign is the basis of the Welsh Coelbren alphabet. And it's the alphabet that's the root of all this.
And where was the stone found?
It's Hardin Village, which is up by Portsmouth, Ohio, that area up there.
How old is it?
6th century probably, but it...
have they carbon dated? Or
no, you can't carbon date stone, but it was found in 39 by William Webb, the head of the Department of Archaeology, therefore it exists. There's a Celtic cross. If you look closely, it's got a circle around that cross, but more importantly, it's got the 3 chevrons of the kings of Glamorgan. It's part of their shield. It goes all the way back in the Bible to Genesis and is one of the 12 tribes.
Alan, tell me about the kings of Glamorgan.
I'm not sure exactly history, the best recorded history in Europe, but something that's a skeleton in the closet, never taught. You won't find it in any school curriculum in the UK.
Why is that?
It's possible that it offends the monarchy. History has generally been structured around the monarchy and promoting the monarchy in the UK, and this is a little bit of a bed of thorns for them.
Now, this is what I find fascinating. King Arthur, who I thought was mythical, I didn't think he ever existed except in Walt Disney movies. You're saying that King Arthur's brother, Prince Madoc, died here in Clark County, Indiana, and that King Arthur very possibly visited Kentuckiana.
Yeah, the legend is English. The fact and the history is Welsh. So you've really got the light side and the dark side of the moon. There's almost an iron curtain across the border, and information doesn't seem to pass. You can find school books up to 1920 in Wales where Arthur, the son of King Meurig, the grandson of King Tudrig at Theodoric, being taught as fact. There's been a centralization of history in the UK out of London to teach everybody the same story. Stop, what do we say, historical antagonisms and so on. And they've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. It's as simple as that. Now, there's a very clear record. The manuscripts we're talking about are of the greatest authenticity and antiquity. Many of the records written by a man named Taliesin, who in his poetry it says, "For I am Merlin and men shall call me Taliesin." Means high intellect.
So it's possible Merlin actually existed.
Yeah, the records are very clear. They tell of a comet striking Britain in the mid-6th century. Something like the terrible Tunguska explosion in Siberia in 1908.
Which may be what prompted 70,000 people to take to the ocean and come here to America. Jim, I want to ask you one last question. Is it possible that this was Camelot? America, Kentuckiana?
Sure. What a wonderful thought. We think we know where Camelot is over there. But to answer your full question, we know Arthur was killed here and was shipped out of here probably 14 miles north of the falls.
The Falls of the Ohio.
The Falls of the Ohio. We've got a stone that was set up in his launching.
Amazing.
He was mummified, put in his golden armor, wrapped in deerskin, and taken back and hidden over there.
I'm sorry, we've run out of time here, but you have more time tomorrow night to explain this at Jefferson Community College at 8 p.m. in the Hartford building. That's at Jefferson Community College downtown. Also on October 27th at University of Louisville's Ekstrom Library. That's the main library on the main campus. And then on October 30th at the Oldham County High School Auditorium. And Jim Michael and Alan Wilson, we thank you very much for stopping in this morning. That's fascinating. It's 16 minutes away from 7 o'clock. We'll be back with news headlines and the weather right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome to Jefferson Community College. This program tonight is sponsored by the Humanities Division, and I would like to recognize somebody who's been very important in helping to put this program together, Jeannie Ferguson. Jeannie, would you stand? Get a nice hand, please. The two people you are about to see tonight and some of the evidence you are about to see tonight perhaps will be just a bit startling. I know it was to me. Remember over here, I've got Glenda over here who is doing a research paper in my class on the mound builders. And Glenda said to me, oh, by the way, this weekend over at Iva's home, they're having a gathering and they're going to be talking about King Arthur in Kentucky. And I smiled on the inside and outside, and I thought probably, as Jim has said later, maybe Elvis would be there too. At any rate, it was startling kind of news to me. I was certainly aware of the Prince Madoc tradition throughout Indiana and Kentucky, because previous to that, so the only thing I ever learned is from students. Previous to that, I had a student who did a research paper on Prince Madoc, so I was familiar with that aspect. The evidence they showed made me do some flip-flops here and there, and I think you're going to get a surprise or two tonight. We're going to start the program out tonight with Jim Michael, who is president of the Ancient Kentucky Historical Association. And Jim has been working on this project a few years, and then following him is going to be our guest from Cardiff, Wales, Alan Wilson. And Alan Wilson, although he doesn't look like he's old enough, has been working on this more than 35 years. So would you give a nice welcome, please, to Jim Michael. And Georgia, would you catch the lights over there?
The Ancient Kentucky Historical Association is a chartered non-profit organization. We've been in existence about 6 years. And we've been looking at O-parts, out-of-place articles that's what the archaeologists call them, things that just don't fit but have never really been researched. And we don't ask you this evening to believe anything that we're about to tell you, but we do ask that you research it for yourselves, look at it, look at the information that we've uncovered, and maybe it'll make some sense one of these days. First of all, these are the things that we found as we looked through the last 300 years of literature. There were some armor plating at the Falls of the Ohio that had a harp and a mermaid and some letters on it that looked Latin. There were forts and mounds, 10,000 mounds in the Ohio Valley. There were forts, 20, 30 of them recorded in 1820 up and down the river and around Kentucky. There were stone. Indians said we didn't make these. Then there were at least 20 very well documented stories of Welsh-speaking Indians, encounters where they spoke for months with these people, and they spoke the British tongue. They really weren't Welsh. They were really British. I tell you, they're really trying to get into this thing. Okay. Then there were stories of Melungeons, a strange group of people living in Hazard, Harlan, Sneedville, Tennessee, that were white, that had a British tongue, and said they were Christians. Then the story of the Wallam Olam, which was a writing on sticks that was picked up by Dr. Ward, who turned it over to Rafinesque, one of our first historians. And he and Eli Lilly of pharmaceutical manufacturer fame published in 1833 the story of the Wallam Olam. And we had mummies in 5 different parts of Kentucky, and they were all wrapped the same way in a cloth wrapper manufactured, they thought, from the bark of trees and then put into deerskin. We've researched those, and we'll show you some of that tonight. Legends, everybody knew about a Prince Madoc. It was on everybody's tongue. And then, of course, there was a strange writing that we found on rocks all around Kentucky. At first, we didn't know there was any in Kentucky. Now we do. This is John Filson's book, and it was published back in 1784. And in the political year, you should ask, what did he know and when did he know it? And he certainly had the Madoc tradition, but he had the wrong family and he had the wrong century. Okay, then there were stories, frequent stories about the Welsh-speaking Indians, and he even lists one here in Kentucky. But he also talks about the Welsh-speaking Indians retaining some of the ceremonies of Christian worship. Interesting. This is the first president of the Filson Club, Reuben Durrett, and he published in 1908. Well, we really weren't interested in the 1900s because we were looking back in the 1700s. But this guy did a fantastic job of organizing everything that we'd already been researching. Beautiful job of it. And here it was all laid out for us, all the traditions of Madoc laid out. All of the Welsh-speaking Indian stories, and this is just one of 3 pages. He talked a little bit about Atlantis and some of the other things in the first 13 pages, and the whole rest of the book is on the Welsh connection. One of the things that he pointed out to us that tells exactly how Madoc got lost is that there was a Richard Hakluyt who published in 1582. And he took work of Guten Owen out of the Abbey. Guten Owen was a Welsh bard, and the bards were the historians that did the recording. And he wrote about the traditions of Madoc. Okay, 2 years later, another fellow named Dr. Powell, okay, took Caradoc of Llandaffrin's work out of an abbey, and he published it 2 years later. Now, he had all the traditions of Madoc, but he knew, Reuben Durrett knew, that Caradoc died in 1157. So the scenario of Madoc sailing in 1170 just isn't on. All right. Then when I talked to Alan Wilson in Wales, I said, hey, we ought to look for this guy. And he said, okay, we'll help you find him. He started looking, and he found Walter Map writing in 1130 about Madoc, and someone in 1100. And he said, hey, these guys got the wrong Madoc. And sure enough, they did. Now, had Reuben Durrett gone across the river or looked in the 4 ancient books of Wales, he would have known about this. This is what Durrett said. He said Taliesin was a Welsh bard in the 6th century, and he said the Welsh bards had the traditions of Madoc, and they did. If he'd gone to the book of Taliesin, it says right there, Madoc was a son of Uther. Well, that's a clue. Uther means amazing, wonderful. It's a title. Uther Pendragon, amazing commander-in-chief. So there's 6 of them. So the question is, which one was it? Now, in his footnotes, he was this close. He said that the Archbishop of Canterbury, in the history of the world, said that King Arthur had knowledge of America and that a Prince of Wales found it first. He didn't know Madoc was the Prince.